bus rounds the corner. It's another year, another proud child whose sorrow stands unspoken. They know she's leaving to survive. If somebody wants to be somebody. Hey, yes, people. Welcome back into Tony Talking Trash About Music. Tonight, I'm going to, with the recent passing of Mark Volman, a.k.a. Flo, short for the Phlorescent Leech. I'm going to celebrate the albums of Flo and Eddie. One of the facets of his career, one of the facets of the Flo and Eddie's career. Flo and Eddie had a remarkable career. When you think about the beginning of the Turtles were a very successful band, and there's, unfortunately went through their share of being ripped off like everybody else did. But I mean, they made a ton of money for some people, and they were really kind of a progressive, a progressive type of a band even back then. And what's so amazing is, they get to the point where they go to the record company and say, we want Ray Davies to actually, because they do the song Days, and I'll talk about that later, which is actually one of their favorite songs. And it's of the same period of Village Green. Anybody's seen my countdown and knows what I think about the Kinks. Love them to death. But I think when you get the fact that they actually had they had an incredible daringness in some of their stuff. And the funny thing of it is, they kind of entered into the Zappa thing. Volman and Kaylan. I guess Kaylan more of the straight singer, and Phlorescent Leech more of the big guy with the afro, and Mark really was a kind guy. It seemed from his voice. They were very instrumental. What they did obviously then moved into the Frank Zappa thing. Everybody knows the big comedy routine of all that, and how much of that was improvised by them and how much of that was Frank has always been up for debate. Now, the Sandini brothers and all those things, all those other little things. Eddie, are you kidding? All those things, they were kind of their routines. And so, so they end up showing up on some of these records and some of these things later. But following this, they end up going on a solo career, and really, it really picks up from the ashes of the Zappa's Disastrous, where he was pushed off the stage at the Rainbow in London. Picking up the pieces from that, they kind of had a band ready in hand, and so that's kind of where they started off with. They started off, and then they retained some of that part for the second record. It was produced actually by Bob Ezrin. And then they went into some more different experimental things that we'll talk about. Now, I'm going to talk about really 6 records here, 6 studio records that they had. And I'm talking about the studio Flo and Eddie records. I will probably have another debate here on the whole Zappa Flo and Eddie period. It's very controversial. I know a lot of people who don't really like it that much because it seemed at that point like maybe it was more about the comedy routines than it was actually the progressive music. But I think a lot of stuff gets lost in the mix of how progressive actually like Ainsley Dunbar and these guys were at the time. I mean, this was some when you think of their version of Call Any Vegetable with the complicated drumming and stuff, Dunbar's really an early standout of the band, and there's not enough ever said about his role. It's funny about him. He doesn't seem to get the credit anywhere he goes, but he really didn't get the credit for the Journey thing. He did really never got the credit so much for the Zappa thing, but he was such an integral part of even, things like Grand Wazoo and stuff like that later. But anyway, we're not talking about them. We're talking about Flo and the Flo and Eddie thing. And he carried him through a couple records. And then came a couple others. And, they ended up with this wildly successful tour of in about mid 80s that just took over. I mean, this Happy Together tour where they came on with the Monkees and them and the Monkees and the Cowsills and different bands like this. And they made big money. And they still to this day, make money from that. As session people, they sang on Bang a Gong, they sang on some Alice Cooper records, they sang on Hungry Heart on Springsteen. They did some very experimental stuff that we're going to actually count, and we're going to talk about. Get a couple experimental records, I guess, if you're going to talk about that. But you talk about the you talk about the Duck song, the Dirty Duck stuff, Strawberry Shortcakes, Care Bears. They did music for Care Bears and vocals for Care Bears. 200 Motels, of course, the masterpiece. I don't care what anybody says. Like I said, I think the music and everything in that is just superb. And everybody, if you haven't seen that, probably takes more than once to see it, trying to get it all. But it's clearly a good art record. What I'm going to do is count down these 6 Zappa, not Zappa, these Flo and Eddie records here that I have. I got all but one, I think, of them here, and on vinyl, and I am going to start with 1975's Illegal, Immoral, and Fattening. Now I have a promo copy of it here, a Columbia Records copy. I've just probably got it on this white label or not. But it has a nice inner sleeve. Yeah, it's a white label. And it's a shame because this is kind of together. They do No Business Like Show Business, some live stuff. Illegal, Immoral, and Fattening's decent song. Rebecca, I like. Now, do you even get Eddie, or are you kidding? One of my favorite, Living in the Jungle. And but I mean, it's mostly a live band. It's mostly live stuff. I threw it in here because it's almost all music that's not on the other records. So it's kind of hard to exclude that. And I put it at number 6. And I think part of it is fidelity and part of it is the comedy thing. I think the least, in my opinion, the less that they lean on that comedy thing, the better musically it is for them, because they wrote some really nice stuff, both in the Turtles and in the other previous incarnations. Number 5, I am going to go with a record that is a little strange. It is a record that was released in 1981 called Rock Steady with Flo and Eddie. And the truth of it is, I have it under I had it on CD, and I think I had a cassette of it in Rhino, and I remember getting it somewhere in a store. But the interesting thing about this record is, and I find the only interesting thing, it shows Flo and Eddie kind of yacht rocking it, on the front, at least of the one that I have, and they're drinking their drinks. And Joe, you can put the cover up here. It's the only one I'm not going to have, but it is completely rock steady reggae, even to the point of recorded at Tough Gong Studios, even to the point like when you hear the drums, you can hear the bleed from the mic from the other thing, and the way they always in Jamaica in that period of time would mic the bottom drum right above the snare. Everything's, it's just unbelievable. I mean, it's really funny. The version of Happy Together is nothing. I don't think anything special other than Happy Together sang with a reggae beat. There's some cool music that they did. They really wanted to do that. And so they ended up with Prisoner of Love, the Ink Spots is kind of a cool song. I like Pearl a lot. Sitting in the Billy Stewart song, Sitting in the Park, Waiting for You. Sha-la-la-la. That's one of my favorites. It's a great single from the 60s. But I think NRBQ even did that song sometime. No, I think this is a good record, and Rock With Me, those guys, it's okay. But again, I can't really consider it anything more than kind of a side shtick, because it's just what it is. It's just a completely reggae record, and they even had other names. What were their names? Let me see what this name is. It's really funny. They had it. What was it called here? Hold on one second here. Let me see what it is. His name was Flo and Eddie, released as Prince Flo and Jaw Edward I. I mean, that's a bit much. I remember being a little bit put off by it, but I'm like, I think they got to the point in that era, and you'll find out in later on in my countdown too. They had another one that was even paired even more than that one. That one at the reggae market. So that's my number 5, 1981's Rock Steady or whatever the other one that I said about the other teams were. Let's go with the next one. And you know, all these four are pretty sharp records. Although I will say number 3 is a little bit of an oddball, but this number 4 is not that far behind. This is a Ron Nevison production, believe it or not. Mark Volman, Skip Taylor, Howard Kaylan, of course, the picture of them on the back. Moving Targets, and this again is a wonderful logo that they put down there. The Flo and Eddie band at this had Andy Cahan on keyboards, Craig Kampf on drums from the West Coast, of course, Eric Scott, Phil Reed lead guitar, produced by Ron Nevison. You know the song, Skunk Baxter plays on it, and a guest spot from the guy from Skyhooks, the singer from the Australian band Skyhooks, which I hope they have a thing about one time. This is mostly a lot of their songs that they wrote themselves. The Love You Gave Away is good. Mama Open Up is a decent one song. Heart's kind of okay. I love Keep It Warm's good. Guns is a political anti-gun thing that they have. They redid Eleanor on this, of course. And of course, Moving Targets, this is a well-produced record. It is clearly in the early days of Ron Nevison productions, but I think it was a wise move. And that's the one thing that they did. And you'll find out later as we move on through this, that's one thing that they did a lot. So for number 4 is 1976's Moving Target. Certainly worthy record, 3.5 stars. They never really made a bad record, so to speak. Just the illegal, immoral, and fattening is kind of a live thing. And that and Rock Steadies, it's hard to kind of get those together because they're both kind of, that's a live record. I never really considered competing with these 3 or 4 studio records. And Rock Steady, of course, being that it's a reggae take on all this stuff, that's something different. Anyway, the number 4, Moving Targets, 1976. Number 3 comes the funny one, and the one that I don't know if you guys are going to understand this or what happened to my other. What happened to them all? They all went here. Okay, number 3, we're ready. We got them here. Number 3, Checkpoint Charlie. Checkpoint Charlie? What's Checkpoint Charlie? Checkpoint Charlie is a record that Volman and Kaylan, under pseudonym, put out under Rhino Records in 1982. Based with the frustration of the simplicity and such, they decided to cast themselves as a new electronic duo of Checkpoint Charlie. The name of the players were, what's the name here? Von Saltz und Pfeiffer. Checkpoint Charlie. Dot Watusi. Show Me the Way to Go Home. Side 1, it's an EP. Helmet from the Row the Boat Ashore and Charlie Does Surf. And this is simple, simplistic stuff with them mumbling in the background and saying stuff. And I piss my pants listening to it. This is some funny stuff. And it's a funny, and this is the trek that their comedy took. I did not follow this time. I don't know if they did any live stuff during this period of time, but it's funny that Rhino would put something like that. And the interesting thing about it is look at the bottom of this. It is absolutely the truth. You put the needle in this record on the end of the record, like maybe the Jack White's records was. I have a couple like this. And it plays inside out. What a trip. It's funny as hell. I mean, I think this is great. The fact I'm putting it above Moving Targets is probably a sin because it is a piss take. There's no question it's a piss take, but it's a very convincing piss take, and they actually get you grooving to it at the end. I mean, by the time the second side comes through, you're there. I mean, they've always been Howard and Mark have always been people I want to root for. I don't know why they present themselves like that, but they're always the underground. Even when you see about that famous video, and you guys should go from here to the video and check out the one on YouTube where they're talking about all the lawyers that they went through, and they went through this manager and that manager and how they got ripped off. It is just unbelievable. I mean, talk about that. Anyway, that only really leaves us 2. And man, I had a hard time between these 2. I mean, I really, really love both of these records. But I made a last minute switch, and I'm going to go with number 2, the 1973 masterpiece. And I think they have 2 masterpieces. This record from 1973 featuring these 2 guys on vocals and Volman a little bit on guitar, but Ainsley Dunbar, Jim Pons, both still from the Zappa band. This is 1973, produced by Bob Ezrin, Flo and Eddie with Afterglow, which to me, it's a Steve Marriott thing. I like the song, but I'm never really one that big on covers. The same thing when they do a version of Days at the end of it. It's funny they do a cover at the beginning and the end. But Another Pop Star's Life is a masterpiece. Just Another Town I love. Marmondy Hill just probably missed my countdown of the favorite songs. And so this man in the middle, they were really writing good songs here. They had a good band behind them who put good parts in it. And this is when they still, were rolling a high ball. I mean, they're going out and they're touring. My understanding was this was produced by Bob Ezrin because it was done in connection with an Alice Cooper record that they were going on, $1 Billion Babies or something that they were going on tour with. So was supposed to be an on tour with them, 1973, whatever dates match up. That's the tour they were on. And that's why they were there. And they were on the tour with Alice. And it's kind of interesting. They probably sang, well, I know they sang background on some of the records, but you're wondering if live, if they didn't curl up to microphone somewhere. Anyway, let's go back to the very beginning. I told you at the beginning, Zappa's unfortunate incident where some idiot, when he's in the band, thinks his girlfriend likes him or something, pushes him off a stage and nearly kills him, and he's in a wheelchair, and then has to come back and build himself back up and kind of go in a little more jazz direction with Wazoo and Waka Jawaka, Hot Rats, and so during that period of time, they pick up the pieces of the band, and you get this record, the Phlorescent Leech and Eddie, as opposed to the last record, Flo and Eddie. So they're kind of making it a little more palatable with this. But you look at these guys, they're having their beer, and they're sitting there. And they're just probably not, you see the Zappa stuff in the background. But here's the band, Volman, Kaylan, Dunbar, Pons, Don Preston in the band, Gary Rose, Lynn Blessing and Claude Williams, Flo and Eddie theme. You know the Flo and Eddie theme, the little thing in the beginning. They're playing the guitar or whatever it is. Thoughts Have Turned, great. It Never Happened. Burn the House, Lady Blue, Strange Girl, I love. Who But I. And then the classic, I've Been Born Again, Goodbye Surprise. Nicky Hoy Boy, all those 3 in a row are killer. Really Love and Then Feel Older Now is great, and There You Sit Lonely. Yeah, this one of the bunch. This one's the one that I probably played more than the other ones because it happened kind of, I wasn't around contemporaneously with it, but it kind of filled in a period of time where it was. And in this, you get a really nice double page. In the original, you get a really nice double paginated Warner Brothers Reprise 2099, and it talks about the writing credits. So you look at the songs, Volman, Kaylan, Things Have Turned, Happened, Never Happened, Volman, Kaylan, 2 in a row, Strange Girls is, of course, Who But I, they're together. I've Been Born Again was them together. Nicky Hoy, A Goodbye Surprise is a cover. Well, what a great cover. Feel Older Now's Kaylan song. Really Love Volman. What the hell, man. This is it's a beautiful. If you can find a copy this nice, this is a really, really, really nice copy. Grab it, man. I got this. I can see right now from the sticker where this came from. This came from and this came from down in DC at CD Seller. And looky here, buddy. Another white label. I don't know. I get lucky these, and I hear, and I don't know if it's the truth or it's not, and you guys can vouch for me and tell me maybe in the comments. And we always appreciate your comments. Please hit the like button for us. I don't want to have to tell you that too many times. I mean, I appreciate the people that are sharing it in our community and different things. I've always heard though, but I'd like to hear from you guys, your experience if you believe that test pressings and white label promos typically sound better. I've heard that. I've heard that they're pressed at the best with a higher quality. It would make sense that because you're sending these records out for airplay and sending these records out for that. But this is certainly a great one. This is produced, believe it or not, by these guys. They let them alone with this thing. And that's the one thing I will admit, probably the second one, the number 2, Flo and Eddie, the 73 record, is probably a little bit better produced. But these are so close. They're both really, really good. And even Moving Targets is good. I'm a big fan, Checkpoint Charlie's kind of a little bit of a joke, but it's really, really funny and it's really good. I played it the other day again twice. It was really just, it's something else. But it's short. You can't count it. So, but they made a scant few records. But let me tell you something. This is where, there's some other stuff that came later. They're all like live compilations and things. But this one is really special, and I think the other one is special too. I would honestly, because the musicianship on these couple records and even the compositional skill, I would give both of these 4-star plus ratings for Mark Volman. Sorry that Mark has to go. We all one day, and it make you feel bad, that all of us one day, he seemed like somebody to be here forever. The Turtles music, of course, we'll talk about the Turtles music on another one of these programs, and maybe even call out a little bit about the Flo and Eddie Zappa band if I can get some people to talk on a little bit of a panel like this. I try to get John Harmon off his hide to do this with me, and we'll see if we can get him to work. And I really appreciate his view to add to it. But thank you a lot. Please leave your comments below. Leave your list below. There's not that many. Tell me what you really like. Again, I'm going to follow this up with a top 10 tracks. I could have gone a little more than that, but 15, 20 was probably stretching it. And if you put the Turtles together, of course you can get a ton of them. And maybe that's what we'll combine those at a later time when we do the Turtles. But yeah, I'm a big Turtles fan too, man. It's older music. You can do one thing at a time. I'm hoping we're not getting too crazy obscure on you guys, but I figure with the passing of Mark Volman, a lot of people don't realize that's his voice on Bang a Gong. That's his voice on Hungry Heart. That's his voice on a lot of stuff. I saw him actually on a Toronto program one time singing back up for Todd on some stuff. So I think they're well known, and they sing together and harmonize well, and R.I.P. both of those dudes, and we will catch you guys at a later time. Again, please leave your list and any thoughts you have below. We appreciate you liking hitting the like button, and also subscribing to our podcast. And we will be back with our top 10 song list. Catch you guys later. Somebody